All right, everyone. First of all, I want to say thank you and welcome you to our first live stream with a guest. I'm so very excited. We have myself, we have Keith. Keith, how are you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing great, Jay. I'm excited here. I'm excited. First, thanks for Influxer for being our wonderful sponsor for this. But Jay, I'm excited about our guest. Just getting to know her a little bit, and she smiles a lot.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like that.
I have to do it justice. We're really excited and we're going to get into her story. But we have Washington State's by way of St. Louis, Missouri, Kennedy Webb. Kennedy, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're really excited. Keith and I have been planning this out, and we were talking about this episode and how it would help so many people. So I'm really
Mhm.
excited.
Me too.
So, walk us through this a little bit. Was there a moment you realized when you wanted to dive into personal branding?
I think I've seen a lot of other athletes at Washington State and other schools who have started kind of doing big things with NIL. And I know a lot of times those people are doing football, basketball, they're kind of in the bigger sports. But I feel like that's possible for any sport at any school. And I want to kind of explore that and show other people that sports like cheer and gymnastics and things like that that maybe get less exposure are still just as valuable in the NIL world. So yeah, that's kind of what sparked my interest in it first.
And that really excites me too, right? Because I think the stories from the media really, focus on some of the big names, Shador, Sanders, people like that who have these huge brand deals. But in reality, right, Keith, like that's a small portion of
Right.
the total student athlete. But being a influencer marketer is something that is within the reach of all student athletes. So
Mhm.
I say that to say, I have to ask you this, Kennedy. Let's
Yes.
talk a little bit about your story, right?
Let's do
From
it.
St. Louis. Tell us what
Yes.
about your journey got you to Washington State and the situation that you're in right now.
Right? Well, I always knew that I wanted to dance. I think I started going to college clinics my freshman year. And from there, I was exploring my options, mostly looking at places that were more in the Midwest, drivable distance. So that was a whole process, went through all of that. And by the end, I ended up getting my offer from Coach Peyton here at Washington State, which was so exciting. And I always knew that I wanted to go away out of state for school. And Washington State was a little bit further than I had expected, but I was so excited, and I knew that, there's not a ton of opportunities to dance in college and even after college. So I knew that, like, having 4 more years to dance at a huge school and, like, do what I love with people who are so talented and great coaches, like, I knew that was an opportunity I had to take. So I definitely was, happy to come here. It's
Yeah.
far from home,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but, it's awesome. I love everything about it.
So I have to ask you about this dance and cheer and everything in that, which is a big realm. And you're, following you on your feed, you're a successful dancer across many different disciplines. It's extremely competitive. And the reason why I'm asking is before we get in and talking about your brand and everything, how did you separate yourself? Because there are so many talented dancers, yet here
Yeah.
you are.
Yes, that's a great question, yes. I think being so committed to it is something that separates the good from the great in our sport. I think the level of commitment between, like, me and my teammates who are all here and got the same offer is crazy. Like, we work so hard, day and night, 24/7. You're always working towards it, whether you're actually dancing or, you're working hard at school or doing other things to better yourself so that you can make that team. And I also think it's important to be really well-rounded, like you said, like working on a bunch of different skills, working on different disciplines. Like, that's a huge thing. If you can show teams that you are well-rounded and have a lot to offer, that's really great, and it makes you stand out from the rest.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I
and
like.
so speaking of that, you're there now.
Yes.
A big transition, just a full disclosure, which did not know this beforehand. We're both from St. Louis area, so shout out to St. Louis, Missouri, and all that means. So I'm not surprised to hear about this work ethic that you're talking
Right?
about. Right, I'm not surprised at all.
Mhm.
But want to talk to you, moving a little bit and transitioning gears, a little bit about your personal brand. Like,
Yeah.
talk to me over the next, let's say, 6 months. Like, what are your goals and what do you would like to accomplish?
Mhm. I think my goals really are I want to expand my audience, my platform. I want to be able to reach more people from the dance community. Like my current audience is a ton of dancers, I'm sure, as you could expect,
Yeah,
most younger dancers. Like, so I'd really love to be able to expand on that and be able to connect with more people
sure.
because I like to be a role model for younger dancers coming up and show them what the college experience is like and what, could be next for them. And then I also am really interested in learning how NIL works,
Yeah,
sort of how I can partner with brands that I genuinely love and that my audience can also relate to. That's relevant,
right.
basically. That's kind of what I'm looking for.
Okay. So your next, just want to make sure I understand. So for the next 6 months, you really want to have a better understanding of NIL, how
Mhm.
you can leverage it,
Yep,
and you'd like to build up a platform, be an inspiration to others. And that's
yes,
kind of what you want to do over the next 6 months, let's say.
absolutely, yes.
All right. Well, luckily we have Uncle Keith, as I call him, here on. So for those of you, first of all, I want to give a shout out to all of those to our live viewers that we've got. I'm checking out now. We have some people. This is our new. If you're just tuning in, this is our new platform. It's called Coffee with Brand&Athlete, and how this story and how this brand came about was I actually ended up meeting Kennedy on social media, and then she asked some questions, right? And kind of, it's like, hey, would love to do some things. And so, just being fully transparent, I thought instead of just maybe like helping Kennedy one-on-one, well, it would be great if we help a lot of people and answer a lot of these questions that we've got, the ones that you just said that you wanted. So we've got Uncle Keith here to answer some of these questions.
All right, all right. So, I'm just hearing a few things here, and you've got your brand. Your current audience is the dance community,
Yeah.
and so my first question is how do we, go beyond that? How do we
Mhm.
go beyond that dance community?
Yep.
And I'm not a dancer. How are
Oh
you
boy.
gonna get me? Well, I'm just
Oh boy.
I know.
I'm just imagining Keith dancing right now, y'all.
Yeah, it wouldn't be good. I'll be honest. Yeah, yeah.
All right, before we get into that, I have to ask Keith, if you're at a wedding, what's your go-to dance? I know you go to a lot of weddings. What's your go-to dance? Kennedy, be
You're
prepared.
really gonna ask me this? I know.
Hey
I
man,
I have an
we're all
answer.
about authenticity. We talk about it, and here we
Right.
are.
Mhm.
Okay, my go-to dance is the shopping cart.
Classic.
What is the shopping cart for those who may be too young to know what that?
The shopping cart, and I am a master. Okay, if I ever get the chance to do this on video, it is one of these. It is hands down the best shopping cart you will ever see. You'll never think everything else will be
What
just
is it? Describe it for us.
okay. I mean, simply put, the dance is you're going through the grocery store and you're moving your shopping cart. You're picking up items. Dropping your coupons. You know, I mean, got to pick up the
Kennedy,
case
Kennedy
of
is.
cola.
I shouldn't have asked. We're in
This is
uncharted
a whole
territory.
nother episode, Jay.
All right, I'm gonna bring us back. Before we get into this, before we move forward. We had this, this new segment that we want to do, a rapid fire, where you just have like a few seconds. The first thing to the top of your dome. I'm gonna start off. Keith, you're next. My first question for you: who is your dream celebrity date?
Oh my goodness. Okay, I've got it. Jared McCain. Do you know who that is?
What? Come on now, Duke, formerly with Duke. Come on now, Philadelphia 76ers, throw it up. Shout out to
Yes.
Jared McCain.
Mhm. That's my dream celebrity date. he does a bunch of dances on TikTok, and I love a guy who can dance. So I think that would be my pick.
We'll wait to see the shopping cart.
Right?
Keith will tell you he's one of my top 10 follows. We're gonna clip this out and tag Jared. Jared, you gotta, hey,
please do.
hey.
Please do.
Yeah. All right.
First of all,
I'm gonna throw another rapid fire. That was a good one. That
hey,
really
first
was.
of all, hey Keith, can I jump in? We have Laura here on the live stream. She said, "Hi, Uncle Keith. Kennedy, love the dedication to showcasing the dancing community and the other sports that don't get featured often." Laura, shout out to you. Thanks for listening.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
Keith, sorry,
awesome.
go ahead. Have to give love to our listeners.
Yeah, we do. All right, I got to ask the next one here, Kennedy. But what's your favorite guilty pleasure TV show?
Ooh. What have I been watching recently? Me and my roommate, who's on the cheer team here at Washington State, we've been watching Cheer on Netflix, the documentary. We've been rewatching that. It's pretty good. That's what we've been doing every night.
Is that the one from
Rewatching.
Texas Junior College?
Yes. It's like Navarro and
Now, Jay, she just mentioned she's rewatching it. So, how many times have you seen this?
Oh my gosh, it's probably my third time watching it all the way through.
Okay.
All right, here we go. If you could be an athlete in any other sport, what would it be and why?
I think I really enjoy watching basketball and going to those games. So I think probably basketball. However, I don't have great hand-eye coordination, or I'm not very good at catching a ball. So I'm probably wouldn't be the best at it, but I would try. I would give it a shot.
Okay, you as a hooper.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right. See, and I think this next question I got could get mixed with that last one. But what's your one guilty pleasure reality TV or internet show?
Ooh, I'll try to give you another
A lot
one.
to pick from.
That is, oh my goodness. Let's see. I don't watch a lot of reality TV, to be honest. Oh, okay.
She
Actually,
just saying that because her parents are probably
I
watching.
do. No, that is so true. But there is one show.
Like, why aren't you studying more?
This is what I watch with my whole family. We love Catfish. I don't know if you know what that is. Yep, Catfish. We watch that religiously. That's
a great show. It is wild. The ability of some of these people is amazing.
It's so good. Yes.
All right, you go. Okay, here's the next one. You get your first NIL check. What are you doing with that thing? What do you buy first?
I am a lover of all things Christmas, and I really love gift giving. So honestly, I would probably spend it on my family right now. I've been shopping for their Christmas gifts since like July. So I have everything prepared. I'm very excited. So honestly, probably gifts for them. And then after that, with the remaining money, probably go to Starbucks.
See, I'm going to translate this for any potential businesses that are listening to her. She's organized. She plans. This is a very responsible student athlete. So if you hire her, you're going to get a lot of planning.
Yes.
Then the execution is going to come. Yes.
Absolutely.
All right. I love it. All right. So we're going to shift a little bit into our coaching session a little bit and spent a little time, Kennedy, Keith and I, looking over your account. You have, round numbers, about 3,500 followers on Instagram, about 750 on TikTok. You're also on X, formerly Twitter. And I even found out, you guys, she's on LinkedIn. So shout out to you for that.
I am on LinkedIn.
You do? Yeah. She has the LinkedIn. I even tagged her in it. But want to talk to you about what are some of the regular content that you're doing outside of practices and your competitions that you attend?
That's a great question. Honestly, we do a lot of practice on our own. So we go and we'll just mess around, we'll turn, we'll do different skills, and we'll post kind of trick reels, highlight reels of us doing that. I post a lot of things with my friends. Like the other day, we went to Lewiston, which is in Idaho, and we went to this little like fall festival. It was super cute, and we took photos. Post with my friends. I post a lot of travel stuff, where I'm going, what I'm doing. I like to I kind of just post whatever I want to post and whatever feels natural. I don't really think about it too much,
Okay.
but
What
yeah.
would you say, break it down a percentage, just use round easy numbers and don't think too long about it. What percentage of the content do you post that is what you just described?
I would say, I mean, 80% of it is that between dance and friends and family.
Okay.
Um, and a lot of I didn't mention this, but a lot of game day posts.
Right.
So photos that we're getting at the football games, at the basketball games, stuff like that. I would say that's makes up a pretty big chunk of everything that I post.
Okay. And the photos that you're getting, are those come from like the athletic department? Do you guys have like really someone dedicated to the team that's providing those to you?
We sort of do. Her name is Ashley, and she is a photographer for our school, but she also works kind of specifically with the Crimson Girls. She did our media day post or our
Yeah.
photos there, so that was super awesome. And she always makes sure to get really good shots of us, which is nice when you're trying to do things like this, like NIL and brand building, where you need professional photos to kind of post and
Right.
talk about. So, yeah, that's super nice.
Hmm. Very good. Very good. Um, hmm. So are you using a marketplace? Are you using something like that? Or could you be using it to connect with brands, and just kind of walk us through like what you're doing in that context?
Right, right. So I did download an app called Post Game,
Okay.
which kind of is like a marketplace sort of thing connecting you with brands. And then I did an Influxer like spirit merch store. I have that up and running. And then I also have reached out to brands on my own and kind of started trying to look into things that way.
Okay. So you've reached out to brands, you said.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Talk us through that. Like, what's that experience? Like, how many people? What's been your
Yes.
experience?
So I kind of made a list of basically brands that I like and brands that I think would also match my audience and make sense for all of us. And then from there, I drafted up a sort of email explaining, hey, I'm Kennedy. I'm at Washington State. This is my sport. Why I have a connection with that brand, why I'd love to promote their product. And then I've been sending that off to some of the brands on that list and waiting to hear back. But as you know, that is a very slow and
Sure.
tedious process, tedious way of doing it. So if you have any better suggestions, I would love to hear them.
Okay, we're in diagnosis. We're like a doctor. We're taking it all in right now. We can't give a prognosis
No, no,
quite
no.
yet.
You take your time. You're fine.
Thank you. Keith, what do you have? I mean, Keith is the what questions do you have about the NIL marketplace and what she's doing?
You know, I think she's approaching it. She's starting this off correctly. She's getting herself out there on a couple different things. Thank you for giving the shout out on the Influxer marketplace. That is something new. But I like the idea that you're going to approach businesses yourself as well,
Mhm.
because that gives them a chance to meet you as a person, connect with you as a person. And I think half the battle with student athletes connecting with brands to eventually get to an NIL deal
Yep.
is to get that business to feel comfortable. They want, every business wants to mitigate. They want to know how much of a risk you are going to be should they hire you.
Right.
And one of the things by going in person and setting up meetings, and they're getting a feel of you, sort of say. I think the only questions now, I would have as a business person is, okay, what are your technical capabilities to execute and
Right.
carry out on something? So, one thing, I'll just ask is, have you done some like draft type of things that you might do, and as you go to sit down with some of those business owners,
Mhm.
do you have some sort of draft like reels or anything like that that you can play
Yes.
for them?
I do not. That's a great suggestion that I didn't really think about. I think it's hard when you're just getting started and you don't have a ton of that material. So I guess then my question for you would be, as someone who's just starting, would you then just show them your social media and kind of what you have and like, hey, this is my page. I feel like it's professional and polished and like shows off who I am. Like, what would you
Yeah,
suggest in that?
yeah. No, I like that idea, but I like the idea of doing some mock-ups
Mhm.
of, you know, maybe even doing a mock-up of their business and saying, hey, this is what I would like to put out there for you, and just once you get one or two of those, then you'll have things you can point back to. You'll have a portfolio.
Yep.
You'll have, some other things, future businesses when you go to pitch them, you can point to these. But I think as you're just getting started off, you might need to do a mock-up of
Okay.
a reel or something like that. So that way, when you go to sit down, it comes across that you've done your homework.
Yep.
You know how to edit, you know how to make stuff look good, and you can get them excited about it right away.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna jump in right here real quick. Just want to keep us moving along a little bit. We're just watching our time. Just a full transparency. Kennedy has to be somewhere, so we're gonna keep it rolling a little bit. So here's where we go. Want to talk to you a little bit about your content. I think we're at a good spot, and I think at the end of this, Keith, as we kind of have the arc of what she's trying to do, I think we can really best lean in and give some actionable tips. So we're gonna have this conversation about your brand, talk about NIL, and then hopefully at the end have like 3 things that you can do within the next 30 to 60 days. All right. So talk to us about so you talked about some of the things that you like. Let's talk about your hobbies, right? One of the big things that I'm a big believer in is that when people are focusing on things that they're actually doing, it's easier to generate content around that, right? Gary Vee calls that document, don't create. So I think for you, one of the easiest things that we can do, Kennedy, is talk about like, what are you already doing? Like, what does your life look like? We already, and we're talking about outside of practice and outside of your competition, right? We kind of know those. Let's put those to the side. What are 2 to 3 natural things? Like, for example, I just got a new rocket. Keith knows this. I talk about SpaceX all the time because I love space exploration. I just got a new kit and it's on my ping pong table in my living room because I don't have a dining room table. And I have a new rocket that shoots up to 1,100 feet. I'm going to create content around that. Like, that's something I'm actually doing, just being fully transparent here. So let's talk about your items. Like, what are 2 or 3 things you're doing outside of competition and cheerleading and practice, excuse me.
Well, I am here to study psychology, and my ultimate goal with that is to become a sports psychologist. So working with athletes like me and at the high school, college, professional level. So that's super interesting to me. I love it. All things like team dynamics, leadership, that's a huge thing that I'm interested in. And then I also teach. I work a job. I work at a dance
Where do you
studio.
work?
A dance studio. It's
How
called
often? Just if you don't mind me asking.
I work there 2 nights a week right now. So
Okay.
Tuesdays, Wednesdays I go, and I'm teaching kids from the ages of 3 to 14.
So you
And
have a passion for dance education, teaching the next generation. I love that.
So really love that was something I did at home, and I was really excited to find a place to do that here too. I love to be able to like share that with kids and watch them progress.
All right, so that's one. What else are you naturally doing? Do you go out to eat to dinner? I would assume, I'm just giving you some prompts here. I know, a lot of athletes are in the health and nutrition. Like, what else? What are some
Absolutely.
things you're already naturally doing?
Yes, naturally, I would say, with dance team being more of a appearance-based sport, we're very much
Sure.
into, like, all things beauty, fashion. I'm very into, like, hair care, as you can tell. We've got a lot of hair going on here.
Okay.
And
This is
so
not
I
something I
like
can relate to at this present
absolutely.
stage of my life, but
Yeah.
I'm feeling what you're talking about
Right?
right now.
Right? Yes.
Jay's
So,
face was priceless right there when you were doing that. I love that. Would you please do that again?
I was like, am I being trolled right now? Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Kitty. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. But that's something that is a very big part of my
Okay.
life, inside and outside of my sports. So yeah, I'd say those are two pretty big things for
Okay,
me.
so dance education. And so when you say that you're into like healthcare, do you like, hair care products and beauty, do you like try out new products? Do you like
Mhm.
talk me through what that looks like? And the reason why, so that Keith and I can kind of, as we get to the end of this, like talk
Yeah,
about the kind of content we can create.
absolutely, yes. Hair care, I mean, everyone's hair is so different, and I feel like a lot of the things that I've learned about my hair have literally come from TikTok, which is crazy, but I mean, you literally watch videos of other people with naturally curly hair doing their hair and recommending, "Hey, these products worked for me," or, "This styling method worked for me," or whatever, and you kind of pick and pull from those things, and I
Okay.
would love to kind of share with other people, like, what, I do for my hair, because I feel like in dance, I want to show that, like, curls can be beautiful too, like, you
Sure.
don't need to have it straightened or curled or whatever, like, it can just be your natural hair, and that's awesome as well. So, yeah.
Okay, and then what about, do you do any other activities? Do you do hiking? I'm just throwing things out there. Do you have like what other things? And the reason why is that, just being transparent before this, I text you, I said, hey, be yourself 24/7,
Right?
365. Right. Everybody knows me, says like that's like
Absolutely.
your best thing, because I think if you're just authentically yourself,
Mhm.
there's only one Kennedy. And I think your best opportunity is to be who you naturally are and just create content around that.
Yeah, for sure.
So what are there things like, what's life like as a freshman? I mean, is just
Right?
getting to Washington State.
Mhm. I would say a lot of it is spending a lot of times with my friends when I can, with my
Okay.
teammates outside of dance,
Okay.
doing things for fun, like, we don't have a ton of free time to get to do things like
Yeah.
that. So when we can, I enjoy doing that, and then also my family is not here, but they
Right.
are a big part of my life, and when I go back home, I enjoy seeing them and everything. So, really, I feel like a lot of times I'm just doing whatever with my friends, like, I it doesn't even matter, like, we could be having, like, pizza and a movie, and that's, like, I enjoy it. That's my activity for the night.
Okay. I love it. Keith, you want to jump in here?
Yeah, man, I'm just listening to all these interests, and I mean, it sounds like you're hitting on a lot of the things. Typically when businesses are looking at potential candidates, they are looking at what your social media is. They're trying to figure out who you are as a person. Do you line up with their company values?
Mhm.
And you having pictures with friends, awesome. You having pictures with family, they love that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Um, you doing your hair, great. Yeah, I mean, all that kind of stuff is great. I mean, you seem like a low risk, and you got a lot of energy
It's the
about your.
lawyer and him talking about your low risk.
Well, I'm thinking like some of these businesses, because
Right. No, I'm just teasing. Go ahead.
yeah, I know, but so some of these businesses out there, they have tried working with student athletes,
Mhm.
and maybe they got a bad taste in their mouth. So to convince them to do jump back into NIL, give it a second shot, they really got to get comfortable with who they are. So
Right.
with who they're going to hire. So the scrutiny is real, and so. Um, so I think it is important, like as you're continue to put stuff on your social media channels, all of them. It's good stuff that looks good, looks low risk, looks
Yep.
like you're fun, you got energy. As long as your social media continues to hit on that stuff,
Mhm.
awesome.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I mean that's the one thing that's striking me, because you're hitting on all these things. I think now is just getting you launched off out the door with the first couple,
Yeah.
so you can sort of flex your muscles and say, "Hey, this is what I can do."
Mhm.
And what we like to see is that I like to say the money in NIL is not the first deal. It truly is not. It's just
Right.
like if you're looking at like the NBA, the NFL, you get those guys getting the rookie deals. the first contract's not where they're getting the real money. The real money's coming in that second, that third deal. It's the same thing, essentially when somebody graduates from college, maybe say with an accounting degree, that first year with that accounting firm, they're getting paid a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
They do well, they're going to keep going. And it's the same exact principle with NIL. Mm-hmm. So I think with you, we get you started with a couple different opportunities by, other people are going to be watching. So even if it's a $50 deal to do something for, a local coffee shop or something like that, easy, right. Go out, crush it, execute it, because you don't know who is going to be watching that. And they want you to bring that same magic and that same energy that you're going to bring to this first deal. And your personality really does lend to this. I think.
Thank you.
It really does lend to this social media influencing. So just the smile, the energy, the curly hair, more hair than Jay, so, I mean, it all works.
That hurts.
Yes.
It hurts. Hey, I want to throw out, first of all, shout out to Laura, have her message here up on the screen. And she asked, just want to take her question, which is, what would you tell your past self as an upcoming freshman, things you would do differently or prep for your NIL career? I assume that is for you, Miss Kennedy.
Yes. Oh, that's a great question. I think that, obviously I'm reaching out early, still being a freshman, but I know that things like this are starting even for people in high school. High school athletes are even kind of starting to get into stuff like this.
Yeah.
Building their brand and working with different companies and stuff. So I think just asking for help earlier and not being afraid to sit down with people like Jay and Keith who know these things, who know about NIL, and asking them my questions, because I do think that it's something that like a lot of people, it's just new and a lot of people don't know about it, and it's sort of scary. So I think, just reaching out sooner would be my advice to my past self.
I love that. Shout out to Laura, excuse me. Shout out to you. Love that question. That's awesome. Keep the questions in. If you guys drop them in the comments, we'll get to them. All right. So just looking over, spend a little bit of time. Love that question. And I think Keith hit some things really on the head. And looking at your content, first of all, I just want to say I do like that you're on a lot of platforms. Again, you're on X, for those of us who are just joining. You're on X, formerly Twitter. You're on TikTok. You're on Instagram. I'm not sure if you have a Facebook page. I couldn't find one, but you are. You do. You have a page. Okay. Okay.
You should on LinkedIn, where all the business people are.
I love it.
I do. I have LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And if you follow us, Brand&Athlete, we tagged her in the post. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking about some of the things, right? I think as I look at your content, first of all, I think you do a really good job. And I think it is really about increasing your output, right? And I think some of the things that may help you is we're going to talk through really quickly, which is documenting what you're already doing, right? So rather than doing like the Kardashians, one of your favorite shows, Kennedy, and think about it, right? They say, hey, we have to go to Mexico so we can fight and argue and come up with some great drama and have an episode. Well, we don't have that budget. So what we're going to do is you have a great life, though, right? You're at Washington State. There are so many people who wish they were in your spot, right? That want your spot. Say, man, I really wish I could be there. So I think we should lean into that and who you are. Mm-hmm. So some of the things I think naturally, because I think one of the things is you continue to storytell, as you continue to create. I think we need to have some goals that you can achieve rather quickly. And I think some of the things, as you create more, you're going to understand your audience better. You're going to understand what you like to do. So I think some of the low-hanging fruit are some of the things that you're already doing. I think you could take us into like your pre-game ritual, right? Or routine. Like take us behind the scenes. There are thousands. I went to Orlando one time. It's a true story, y'all. I went to Orlando one time. I've never seen so many young dancers in my life. Apparently, that's like dance capital of the world. Is this true? Absolutely. I may be hyperbolic.
It is true. Yep. We will be in Orlando beginning of January, I think, is when our competition is. Yeah. It is huge. Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah.
So, and before we get into it, I just want to step back because I think I took a step too far. I want to say this. I think really creating really good content is a lot of people focus on what's in it for them. I think if you focus on what's going to deliver immense value to my audience,
Mhm.
and I try to have like for this live stream, I try to think what would help a student athlete or a prospective student athlete or content creator. And in your case, I'll be thinking if I were a dancer either at another school or maybe a prospective dancer in high school or even junior high,
Right.
what would I want to know? And most importantly, what emotions would I want them to feel?
Yeah.
Right? Is
Mhm.
it motivation? Is it inspiration? If you notice with some of our content, I put out quotes all the time because
Mhm.
the biggest thing I always say is just getting started, fighting through the doubt.
Yeah.
So I try to deliver that to our audience along with content creation skills. What do you think about that? Being something that maybe you could deploy in your content.
Absolutely, yes. I feel like there so much I'm doing so much every single day, and it wouldn't take any extra time or effort to just go ahead and make content out of what I'm already doing, which is such a great idea. I think sometimes it does feel like, "Oh, I have to, like, kind of set it up and make it look perfect," but, like, it doesn't have to be perfect, and, like, I don't as when I was a high schooler looking at the college kids' social media profiles, I didn't wanna see this perfect life, I wanted to see what they were actually doing and what their day in the life looked like and what a game day looked like, and,
Right.
get ready with me for whatever they're doing,
Right.
like, you wanna see what they're actually doing, so I think that's a great point that you make, just film it, take photos of
Yeah.
it, post what I already am doing. Okay, I can definitely do that.
And I think you speak to a huge point, which is I think people think that everything has to be perfect.
Mhm.
And I think that comes from spending so much time in our feeds and looking at like, oh my gosh, it's so amazing. And I would say don't let perfect get in the way of progress. Right. Like just get started. Like take photos. Like you do a
Mhm.
good job with your stories. Think about it. I also say that your average person probably needs around, I just like throw around numbers out. Let's say 40 pieces of content, right? That sounds like a lot. I know you're freaking out inside, right? But think about it. We have between our platforms, how many pictures could you take quickly while you're getting ready
Yep.
throughout your day, storytelling, and think of it, everything doesn't need to be a reel. Everything doesn't need to be a dance video, right? And then I think and for anyone that has questions, I would also say dig into the tactics of how the platforms work, right? Like, are you asking engaging questions like, hey, what game are you going to this weekend? Right?
Mhm.
Like thinking about your audience and what they're going through. And I think when I talk about that 40, that's probably 4 pieces of content across your platforms. You can repurpose it,
Mhm.
and one of the keys there is just making it contextual to the platform. So I think that's one of the things that I would say is don't worry about being perfect.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Keith,
No,
Keith,
that's
Keith,
all
Keith's
great
over there
stuff.
looking at me. He's giving me the side eye. Side eye.
Oh, you're good. You're good. One other thing when I'm coaching folks up on different things is, never look past an opportunity, especially with athletes, and think there's a lot of obstacles you have to overcome. And just in terms of the overall general perception of student athletes and NIL right now, because it's not all rainbow and sunshine and puppies, right? There are some negative perceptions out there, so there are some things that you have to overcome. And I think being in Pullman, Washington, and you're undoubtedly going to have to walk. And Jay, I don't know if you've been to Pullman, Washington. There's hills
No.
and stuff on that campus. You got to walk up these hills. I can just imagine there's going to be some snowy days. It's snowing. Shooting video of you walking up these hills, going to class, showing people, how legit you are at making sure your studies are taken care of and stuff like that. Just showing how genuine you are of a student athlete, how deserving you are of their support. I mean, taking those like types of weather situations and stuff. Yeah, it's going to stink for me to go out in the cold, but that's a great opportunity, you
Yeah,
know?
for sure.
So I'm long winded. I was getting the side eye from Jay there.
No, I'm sure I was actually just answering the chat. Shout out to the chat, first of all. Shout out to the chat. All right. So So here's some of the things that I just want to make sure that we're covering. You already have your practice. I think consistently posting to practice, like setting
Mhm.
up, whether you have a tripod or not, I don't even care. I think as long as you find a way, I'm old school. I do have, you can see behind me a bunch of fancy uh, tripods back there. Don't need them. Like, can you use a trash can? Can you use your bag? Can you like angle it the right way and get photos and videos from your dance, right?
Mhm.
Um, I think taking people, as we just discussed, behind the game day experience, like all the different aspects, and it doesn't have to be the long my whole day. It could be like
Right.
different parts of it, right?
Mhm.
Like getting ready the day before. Do you guys go like
Yeah.
before games? Do you guys do prep rally? Are there traditions that you do, right? Like, what do you do the morning of? Do you have any rituals that you go through? How do you do your hair? These are all the game day. It's just a game day.
Mhm.
So, and then the other thing that you mentioned that I think that you can do more of, and I was looking at your feed while Keith was being long-winded. I mean, talking. Uh,
You see what I deal with here, Kennedy.
I'm kidding. He knows we go back like 8 tracks, man. We go back a long way. But I think I'm looking at your feed. I think a huge thing we could lean into is more photos, photo galleries, right? Um, and thinking about like taking some of the photos that you have. I know those are so easy to execute on, and you can use them different ways. You could use stories, you could do carousels. The other thing too, are you on Snap?
I am.
Okay,
Yes.
love it. Shout out to Snap. I think do you take advantage of a spotlight on?
I actually do not know much about their kind
Okay.
of more like public platform. Like I use it to connect with my teammates and
Yeah.
we like send things back and forth and text each other, but I don't know anything about Spotlight or anything like that.
Okay, so Spotlight, for those that don't know, if you open up, I'm just going to walk through. We're just going to do this live. Keith doesn't have Snapchat, so he'll just have to listen. So if you open for everybody who's on there, it's bottom right. I know you may know this, Kenny, used to walk with people through. Bottom right, there is a play button. And if you click it, that is essentially their version of Instagram Reels or TikTok. That's what they introduced, right? And then if you just go through, like I'm literally on my phone as we're talking, and you just go through, and it's just like Instagram or TikTok, right? And what you can do is repurpose some of the videos you're already doing the TikTok and
Mhm.
Instagram Reel. So remember we talked about that 40, right? So if you take one video, you put on Instagram, Snapchat, Spotlight, TikTok, and Twitter, that's four right there of the 40 I
Mhm.
talked about, right? And then what you do is just really quickly is you hit your name, you hit the you hit your name, you hit the button, you send it, and you hit a share, and you to share to Spotlight. And basically it puts it into the Spotlight so other people get your video, and that would be the dance videos you're already doing.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just saying that that makes sense. I feel like I can definitely post stuff that I put a lot of stuff on my story that would make sense there too. So that's easy.
Yeah,
Perfect.
and it could be the polished stuff, it could be some of the videos, and understanding too, thinking about your audience. These young men and women who are dancers, they might be 13 to 25, let's
Mhm.
just call it, right? That's the Snapchat audience, and it's a very underutilized place. I'm really big on what I call underutilized attention, meaning
Mhm.
like where can we go and get value and get views that when you do it, it gets you a lot. Like Instagram's really tough right now, right? Like it's tough sledding. TikTok, and another one would be YouTube Shorts, right? You could take that same video we just talked about, added those places. Now we're up to 5 places, you guys. You
Mhm.
see what I just did there? It's not as hard. We're getting there quickly. The other aspect that I'm really thinking about, and tell me what you think, Keith, is the dance education. Could you just maybe take
Mhm.
a half hour each week and give some dance education tips? And
Absolutely.
it doesn't have to be dances. It could be, what are tips that you have? What have
Right.
you learned as a college dancer? What did you learn
Yeah.
as a youth dancer? What
Yeah.
to avoid?
Mhm.
Don't do this. I made this mistake.
Yeah.
Thoughts? What do you think?
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. Another like super easy thing that I can fit into my schedule that is will take me 15 minutes to make. But yeah, no, all great ideas.
And do you feel like that's up to you? Because here's one thing I think about whenever people tell me they don't have time, I ask them to go look on Sunday, the dreaded time when you get that, how much time you spend on your phone. Okay. This is going
Right.
to get real here, people. We keep it 1,000 here, right? And I think most people underestimate. I think one time when you're in your feed, you can spend half your time scrolling for entertainment and then take half of the time you're already using and think about how can I use this and take it for what I'm doing. Like, how could I take this dance or this trend or
Yeah.
this trending idea and put a spin on it for dance or for
Yeah.
Kennedy?
Mm-hmm.
What do you
Yep.
think about that?
For sure. Yeah. That totally makes sense.
Maybe maybe
Oh,
even do like a little session with stretching, for old guys, that get a little stiff in their back, tell
yeah,
us how
absolutely.
dancers, do it,
Sure. Mm-hmm.
I'm
We're
not
throwing
gonna
stuff
say
out there. Come on.
I'm not gonna say
Yeah.
anything, but that is actually a great point. I mean, while he's kidding, I
Mhm.
do think all the things we're talking about, the dance education, all the like, how are you maintaining, right? Like, I think about all the dancers I've ever seen. Right, there's a lot that goes into it. It's a very physical activity, right?
Yep.
Yes.
So how do you maintain? How do you refuel?
Yeah, I mean, we have trainers here that we get to go see, and we can tell them, if we have injuries, if something's hurting you, you come in, they help you, they're great. And we also lift. We do weightlifting twice a week, and then we do cardio once a week on top of all the other dancing that we're already doing. But I really enjoy that, and I feel like that's something that adds a lot to my dancing, and I
Okay.
noticed such a difference before lifting versus after lifting, which is really nice. And then obviously we're stretching a lot too, but those are two other things that are kind of more body maintenance things for
I
us.
love it. And I'm looking here right now. I'm on her IG where she has 2,466. Shout out to you on that. That would be a great addition to your content that you've
Yeah.
already got. So I love that. And that's something you're already doing. Here's the
Mhm.
other thing, too, just a real quick thing. We don't want to give you too much. One of the things is when I feel like I can't create content, I either
Mhm.
use other people's or you can go interview people, right? Like we're creating
Mhm.
content right now with you
Yeah.
talking. You could go take your camera, your phone. This is
Mhm.
all you need. We've interviewed a bunch of people already. We interviewed Connor Prince, shout out to him. And we interviewed Alyssa Utsby, shout out to her. Both of them primarily use their phone. No
Yeah.
fancy gadgets. Neither one of them even had a tripod. And Alyssa just got a microphone, right? She's got I think Connor has over 1 million followers. She's got about half of that, right? So here's what you could do. You could just go ask your trainers interview your question,
Yeah.
interview your trainers. And here's another one, your teammates.
Mhm.
Mhm.
You know what? I feel like Jordan in his prime right now.
Mic drop right there.
I'm kidding, but on a serious note, this is the foolishness that you have to put up with it. That's, but I mean, seriously, what do you think about adding that? And
Mhm.
think about it, you're already at practice.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, that's something that I definitely see other dance teams doing, and something that we have a team TikTok account that other girls on my team kind of been running, but that's something that they have sort of been doing on there that I could pull some into my own personal account. So yeah, easy peasy.
Easy peasy. There we go. I love that phrase. Yeah.
All right. One last question. How are you managing your content calendar? Like, do you write it down? Do you use Google Calendar? Do you keep it in your head?
Yeah, that's a great question. So actually, I did have a question prepared for you just about that. And
Oh,
my
I
question
feel
is,
honored.
um, my
Thank
question
you.
is, how would you suggest, I know staying consistent and posting consistently
Sure.
is a huge part of this.
Yeah.
However, I'm someone who, as I said earlier, I post what I want to post when I want to post. I never want it to feel forced. And so how do you kind of
Mm.
keep it from feeling like forced or like, "Hey, I made this specifically to post." I don't wanna post too much, but I
Yeah.
also want to not post enough, and then I'm like, "Why am I not reaching my goals?" So, what are your suggestions on that?
I'm gonna let Keith go first, and then
Okay.
I'm going to let you go first on that one.
Oh, okay. Well, shoot, don't. I'm not afraid. All right. So here's what we do. What I try to do, if I were you, I want to give you advice for you and for other people who are starting out, because I believe that keeping things simple is the greatest way to get started, right? And to not overthink it. And I think we all have the natural tendency to do that. So what I would do is I would try to come up with a metric for what I want to post. I think for you, realistically, just 4 times a day sound realistic?
I think so. Does that include, so like, say we're talking about Instagram, does that
Yeah.
include feed, story, like any post on there?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Okay. Then
And I
yes.
actually think the 4 is extremely low, because you think about, like, just if you just thought through and walked around campus and
Mhm.
thought about the cool things that are happening around you yourself and documenting it and
Mhm.
not overthinking, like, don't spend, I think a lot of people are spending 15 minutes on an Instagram story, right?
Yeah.
Because I know I used to do that.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
just keeping
guilty of
it real, right? But here's the thing, think about this. Most people are just pop, 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 pop. Sorry, you can't see my finger. This is what most people are doing. This is what most people are doing. So I would say 4 to 7 times a day, including stories,
Okay.
right? And then what I would do is batch. And what I mean by that is think about times. Like right now, we're interviewing you, and we're gonna now take this, and it's really for the chop ups for the short form content. If you follow us, you see we do a lot of those, right?
Yeah.
And so what you could do is those interviews that we talked about, and if you think about the 4 things that we kind of came up with,
Mhm.
we're going to talk about practice, game day,
Yep.
dance education, and then just life of being you. I think that you could easily hit the 4 to 7.
Yeah.
So what I would do, this is how my mind works. I think you have to, I believe that everyone should do what works for them. I would
Mhm.
probably use some sort of a Google Calendar.
Okay.
Just keep it, do you use Google Calendar right now?
Oh my gosh, that is my whole life. My whole life is on Google Calendar. Yes.
Yeah. So if you have time, I would take each week, like I would time block to plan the week coming up.
Okay.
And say, if I'm looking at your calendar, what am I already doing? Okay, we have a game that day. So I know I've got that. The
Mhm.
things that you're naturally doing, I would, though they're going to automatically generate content for you. And then I would batch. So I would take 30 minutes. I would do the dance education, and
Mhm.
I would have a piece of content for 4 days a week, 5 days a week, easy. And then I would just fill it into the days and save it
Okay.
on my phone. That's what I do now.
Okay.
Does that seem doable?
Yes, yes. Especially as a planner, that makes total sense.
Yeah, and that's the big thing, like plan around what you're already doing. And I think if you have that idea and you start thinking, if you like every Friday, I plan, guys, for the next 7 days.
Mhm.
So each week is already planned once it starts on Sunday, and my week starts on Sunday. So I go Sunday to Sunday. Does that
Got it.
make sense? And I
Yeah.
just literally open my calendar. And then what I do, because I'm a visual person, I put my 4 content pillars out there.
Okay. Yeah.
Does that make sense? And
Yeah.
then I literally look at what I'm already, like today we had a show. So I didn't have to fill in other things because we had the things of storytelling around it. I did
Right.
a countdown. I took one of your photos, right? It was so easy. You sent me
Yeah.
photos. So I took that. It said, coming up, tagged you on it. Boom,
Mhm.
boom. And I don't know if that was helpful. So that's what I would highly recommend in terms of organizing. I would take 30 minutes, and then what I would do is time block. I wouldn't check any other apps. I wouldn't do anything else, and I wouldn't watch anything, and I would just time block and plan the next week.
Yeah.
Everything that Jay just said is, I mean, we're talking about you kind of at the starting gate right now and really trying to build this thing out. In a lot of the interviews and shoot, even in the last week's episode, as we talked with pretty well established social media influencers from University of North Carolina,
Mhm.
you know, every one of those folks, they're very regimented about their schedule. And so I think everything that he just laid out here puts you in, gets you in a repetition, gets you that practice, gives you that structure moving forward.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think we're, you know, when you start landing some of these deals, it boom, boom, boom. You already know how to do this. You're cranking it out. You got this down to a science. And so I think, just starting right now, like the way he's mentioning it, perfect.
Awesome. Sounds
Yeah.
good.
And I would use what you're already using, which is Google Calendar.
Yeah.
That's what I would do. You can always advance, just keep it simple.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's where we are. I think here's what we have so far. We have your 4 content pillars. Are you happy? Do you feel comfortable? You can always change them. We're just talking to
Yes.
start.
No, that's an awesome starting place for me. Thank you.
And then here's what we'll do. We're gonna, if everybody likes this conversation, we're gonna follow up, right? We're gonna weekly check-ins with you. If you guys, you have to stay tuned. And then I think we can also see what you like. What is
Mhm.
your audience like? Do more of what they like, do less of what you don't like or what the audience doesn't like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just kind of adjust
Yeah.
along the way.
Mhm.
And the key is just to keep it simple.
Okay. Sounds
Yeah.
good.
So, and I think you're behind the scenes content. I'm just going to give you my opinion here. I think you're behind the scenes. Like, I always think about, like, what story can I tell no one else can tell?
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Like, what you're going through your first semester on that campus. And again, some of it just may be you're walking around, you see something cool, you see some of the artwork on campus. And that's more of like, it's not random, because like I think what happens is people have in their mind, like, I'm this brand, so I've got to stay within this thing.
Yeah.
And I believe it's yes and. So it's like, you love dance and, right? You love dance education and you're a college student and you see what I mean? Like, and because in the end, your content won't get boring if you're talking about different things that are authentic, as opposed to if every post about dance, that could be a lot. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I know we're at the end, so before we wrap up here, I do want to make a special shout out for our sponsor here. Big thanks again to Influxer for supporting today's show. Their support helps us bring on this great content and spotlights athletes like Kennedy Webb. So incredibly thankful for Influxer.
Yep, and great conversation. Well, a couple of things before we close out. I want to talk about our NIL checklist, because I feel like it really leans into what we have. It's a free resource. We don't charge for it. You could go to our website. It's actually on the screen. It's brand&athlete.com/playbook, and it's a free thing that we put together to get you started. It's like, what are some of the basic that you need to be doing? Right. And it's some of the things that we went on here. And I hope that everyone takes that resource and they lean into it, because I think it's so very helpful to make sure you have all of your bases covered. Because really, as Keith and I always talk about, it's really about building a team with you as well. The checklist goes into it from there. But I think that's so very helpful. And I'm really excited about our conversation, your journey, Kennedy, because one thing that I really think that you're going to do well is that you're a self-starter. One of the things, you guys, like, she reached out and I was just like, I mean, like, the reason why I thought this would be the conversation that we're having is because I believe people who are self-starters like yourself, who aren't afraid to step out and try new things and don't really care what other people think, are the people who are really happiest and living closer to their dreams.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So as we kind of wrap here, let's talk about this. What are the things, because we have to get real, we had a great conversation. What are the things that you think that are like maybe your biggest challenges or pain points to moving forward? And just what questions do you have for us? We want to make sure that you have a time to talk about some of the real things of being, because it's not easy, y'all. It's not easy.
No, I mean, I think everything you covered makes sense, and like, just simplifying it feels a little bit scary when you're looking at the big picture, but just talking about things that I can do every single day is really helpful. Like, just taking it day by day or post by post. I think that's really all I needed to know is like, am I moving in the right direction?
Yeah.
Does this sound like, having you look at my profile and saying like, hey, this looks good, keep doing this, maybe add this, like, very helpful. Exactly what I needed. So I'm in a great spot. right now.
Yeah, and I think, and I'm gonna let Keith talk to this. I think our next conversation could be more about your profiles because I
Mhm,
think people sometimes worry too much. I think the content is everything, and I
mhm.
think if we get that right, the rest will fix itself, right?
Yeah.
Like, the easiest thing I hope that you and everyone listening on the live stream, shout out to all of our streamers, shout out to you guys for being here. We really appreciate you. Um, is taking your content and putting on more platforms. And just so that we live it out, these are the platforms we're on. So we're on X, of course, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we're on YouTube, we use YouTube Shorts, we're on LinkedIn,
Mhm.
and we're also on Pinterest. I just got a notification. We have a 600% increase on Pinterest. And the reason why I say that is like, guys, it's really just about getting reps in. Right.
Mhm.
Like I always tell people, like Kenny knows this. I, was a track athlete, D1 in high school, and I don't know if I was necessarily the most talented because I competed against the people I thought were just fabulous. But the thing that I always knew is that like when they were sleeping, I was working. Right. When they were taking days off, I
Yeah.
was getting in reps and I got them in early. If we went on vacation, one thing that my mom, first of all, shout out to her, she was a high school teacher and a state championship coach, is I learned from her to always do my priority things first. So if we go to Florida, which is where my family from, I would find a track and hit that first. I would
Mhm.
find the basketball, you know, the gym and hit that first. And I think if you lean into that and you've got that St. Louis grind in you, I think you're going to get there quicker than you ever thought.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. I think you're dead on.
Yeah. So anyway, this was produced by Hicks Sports and Entertainment. I'm really excited, guys. And we always try to just be authentic and live it out. Kennedy, what do you think? Coffee with Brand&Athlete. We're thinking bring your coffee mug. You know why? It's that St. Louis work ethic that I'm talking about. Like,
Right?
for all of you guys, and look, while I stream videos, I have a TV right here while I'm working. But part of it is like, sometimes you have to stay up a little late. Not you, other content creators out in college. And we're doing something new. This is our first live stream with a guest. Keith and I did one to launch it. And
Mhm.
so, we're really excited to have you. As we close out, what is one thing, Kennedy, about yourself that people don't know that you would love for them to know?
Oh my goodness. One thing about me. Hmm. I would say this is a big one for me, and I sometimes post about this, maybe a little bit more when I was going through the recruitment process, but I still sometimes struggle with it. And I mentioned it earlier, is that I am a very big perfectionist. And, that's something that I've kind of been working on, and not only in dance and school and life, but I think it also applies here to content creation. Like, again, what we said, letting go of that
Yeah.
and not worrying about, does it look perfect? Are people going to, think a certain way of it? Like, just posting what feels natural to me. I feel like that's something that a lot of people can probably relate to, is just the fear of getting started and the
Yeah.
fear of what other people are going to think, the fear of not being perfect or not meeting certain standards. So I think that that's something that I would love to, like, post more about my journey with that and kind of overcoming that perfectionism and help other people with that, not just in sport and life, but also in NIL.
Love it.
I
Love it.
I I love it. Keith, what do you think? I'm gonna let him comment.
Yeah, no, I love it. I mean, you come across just so genuine. I mean, if I'm a business right now that's looking for somebody, yeah,
Thank you, Keith.
Okay, Uncle Keith cosigns.
yeah,
No, I love it. And like he said, I think it's it that you are authentic, and I just encourage you to keep doing that. And I think as we close out, I think you hit on a key point. And I say this all the time, and I know I've said this a couple of times in this, but if you're just joining us, like just forget about what other people think. right? Like forget about what your mom thinks, your dad thinks, because what I find, and I get a lot of people that reach out to me and they have questions, is what happens is they're so worried about what other people think. And they're not doing it for themselves. They're doing it for, what is my classmate back in high school going to think? What is my mom going to think? And look, we love and respect everybody, but you only get one life.
Yeah.
So you just like do you all the time, and just know and give yourself grace and understand that you're probably going to make some mistakes, because we all do. I know I do. And Keith will tell you I make them all the time.
I made mine, yeah, we're good. We're still living. Still happy.
Hey, you know what?
Sure.
Hey, Kennedy, we're still here.
Yeah, you are. You are. Absolutely.
The sun is going to come up tomorrow.
Yes.
And I say that just because I know a lot of student athletes feel a lot of pressure from parents, love parents. But, just believe in yourself. And part of also being a content creator and being successful in life is like fighting for your vision and your dream for your life. And I always tell people, like, I love advice, but here's the thing: nobody can tell you your life better than you.
Yeah. So
I'm gonna get down. I feel like a pastor right now because I'm passionate. You guys can tell I'm very passionate about this because I've been through this before, and I just know when I first started doing this, and I had people say, "Oh man, the internet, Joe, man, why are you doing this? Why aren't you in investment banking? Why don't you do, all the people I went to school with? Why, they're doing all these things." And I follow my dreams, and the people that I really look up to and respect have done the same. So I say this to you, Kitty. I give you a salute. I have so much respect for you because you're just out here living your best life.
Yep, absolutely. Yes, for sure.
All right, Keith, you want to bring us home?
Sure. Yeah, this has been a blast. Really just want to thank everybody again. Thank all the listeners that popped on, and want to make sure that we encourage you to hit that follow button. Stay tuned for everything that Brand&Athlete is putting into production. We got lots of exciting stuff coming up. And of course, we'll have a follow up here with Kennedy. We got to learn. We got to stay in touch there. Learn what's going on. It's been an absolute blast, and we know she's got a tight schedule, needs to split. But appreciate you. Thank you so much, Kennedy.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for putting up with the jokes between Jay and I.
Yes.
Yeah, it goes back a little bit of a way. So.
All right, Kennedy, you get the last word before we sign off the live stream, our first ever with a guest.
Oh my goodness. Thank you guys so much for having me again, and for talking to me and talking to all of us on this live stream about NIL. And, I feel like this was so helpful for me. And, as much as it's scary, it's new, but the fact that like I can kind of be a pioneer in this for people in the dance community, I think that's awesome. And so I hope that everyone watching got something out of it as much as I did.
Awesome.
There it is. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks. Shout out to our chat, all the people that showed up for us. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye, everybody.